Welcome in, everyone. We are back for a Thursday edition of the Baltimore Collective. It is Cole Jackson here of Road Graders with Cole Jackson, joined by Jeff Zrebick of The Athletic, not joined by Bobby Trossard, who's currently streaming on one of his 18 platforms. Might be joining us later if Hollywood can, make enough presence to, or make some time to dub us with his presence. But we are here to give you our instant reaction. The schedule has dropped. It is official. Though, I mean, one of my biggest takeaways of this whole thing is like, what a process. It basically, the whole schedule was out by 4 o'clock today, and then the whole thing dropped. It's gotten silly. But anyway, we'll get into that here in a minute. We're also here to tell you our new partner at SeatGeek, and to be haunted by Bobby himself, we do have a quick message from our sponsor.
We're fired up about a brand new partnership, and it is with our friends at SeatGeek. The NFL schedule is coming out this week. It's the time where everybody starts looking at the calendar. We get it, and all of you guys probably get it too. Which Ravens game am I pulling up to this year? I'm sure you're asking yourself something along those lines. Whether it's a big AFC North matchup, a primetime game at the bank, or even a road trip, who knows? SeatGeek makes it super easy to find tickets. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, and they have more than 70,000 events listed. We're talking concerts, sports, festivals, and everything in between. And one of the best parts is how simple they make it to know if you're actually getting a good deal. Every ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know what you're looking at right away. Green dots, good deal. Red dots, bad deal. So when you're trying to get into a Ravens game without overpaying, SeatGeek has your back, and every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, so you can buy with confidence. And of course, if you use code Collective10, that's Collective10, you'll get 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. Again, that's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Collective10. Click the link that we have in the description, download the app, have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it for later. Appreciate you, SeatGeek, and welcome to the Collective.
That was a very long ad read, but obviously very timely given the schedule is official. Go out there, use code Collective10 on SeatGeek to go get yourself some tickets. So let's dive into it. Jeff, let's what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to kind of go week by week, really get into it, but just your overall impressions. Let's kind of start at a high level here.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a schedule. Now, I haven't had a chance to solicit a ton of opinion from, everybody at One Winning Drive, but from the folks I have talked to in short order here, I think they're pretty pleased with the schedule. I do. There's a couple tough pockets. There's a couple things, wow, that sucks, but that's in every schedule. There's no perfect schedule. There's always going to be a couple weeks where you may be at a disadvantage or you're playing a team you'd prefer not playing that week. That's just part of it. But I think overall it sets up pretty nicely. When I have, when you're talking about a rookie head coach and as many new pieces as the Ravens are going to have on the coaching staff and obviously a handful of new players, I like a relatively forgiving start. And I think that's the first thing I notice. It's always tough judging schedules off last year's records. Like, hey, they only do they only play this. But I think, they don't play a team that was made the playoffs last year until week 8. Obviously, the Bengals game is going to be tough and the Falcons in Atlanta. I get all that. But when you look at it, it is a relatively forgiving first month plus of the season. And I think that sets up really nicely when you have a first-year head coach and there's going to be some moving parts here. So that is one thing I like. I like the fact that they have a week 13 bye. I think the late buys kind of steady yourself for the stretch run, allow you to get healthy. But it is late. But I also kind of almost consider between week 9 and week 10 a mini bye, because not only do they have the Thursday night game, which always necessitates a mini bye, but they don't play the following week till Monday. So you're basically adding another day. So that's as close to a full bye week as you're going to get without the actual bye. So it almost feels like, they got a week 10 bye and then a week 13 bye. So I like that. I like the fact they're at home for week 18. I think that's always good. If the game, has importance, you want to be at home in front of your fans. And I think my surprises, Bills not being prime time, Texans not being prime time. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that have 6 or 7 primetime games. I figured the Ravens would be one of them with at least 5. I'm not complaining because those games are hell on your family life and your, on your job, especially on the road and trying to get home after staying up till 4 a.m. working. But I'm a little surprised on that. And then what you don't like is, they've never played 4 division games to close the season. And that leaves you very little margin of error. There's always teams you play late in the season that are sort of playing out in the string and maybe laying down a little bit. But when you're playing 4 divisional games, those teams are not going to lay down. They're not going to get embarrassed against division rivals just so you can walk all over them. But hey, there's always difficult parts of every schedule, and the division heavy finish is sort of the one that stuck out to me. But overall, I think this is a pretty good schedule. I think people in Owings Mills are going to be feeling pretty good about this without a ton of complaints. We all love to complain, so there will be a few. But I think Raven fans should be pretty happy with this, Cole.
Yeah, I think I had a hard time finding really much to complain about. Obviously a late bye, 2 away games before the late bye. But it's not always going to be perfect. So I think the best way to do this is let's kind of break this up into 4-game chunks just for the start here. So I want to go back and remind people of the start the Ravens had in 2025. And we talked about this quite a bit in the summer when we were, getting ready for the season. So the Baltimore Ravens in 2025 started at Buffalo, came back home against Cleveland, who they always split with. Then they host Detroit and then go to Kansas City. That was the month of September. This could not be.
And then don't forget about the Rams, right? The Rams, and
the Texans, then the Rams. So and then the bye. So the first 6 weeks was
right out of the bye. You got a Bears team that was much better than anybody expected. So
exactly,
as you said, look at this.
And a couple of nuances that I want to point out here. So week 1, obviously it's going to be Jesse Minter's first game as a head coach. A lot of buzz, but you are going into Indy, probably a place that you're not. It's not. It's not the Manning Indy anymore.
Yeah.
And the big nuance here is you got Daniel Jones, who's coming off an Achilles tear. And I think the big question becomes, how quickly does he get back? Is he ready for week 1? Probably. But, it's an Achilles injury, and some guys have really struggled with their mobility to come back from that. And then the other big piece around this being that, and we kind of talked about it on Tuesday, is how would they handle week 2 and 4 with a trip to Brazil? And I think this probably came out almost as good as you could possibly hope for with 2, I would say. I don't want to disrespect the Saints too much. They really started to turn on at the end of the season under Tyler Schuff. But, the Saints and the Titans, probably 2 of your more favorable home matchup teams that you could have to surround that international trip. So what's kind of your take on the first 4 games?
Yeah, and again, you're right. There's always a couple teams who are much better than anyone expected. And I'm not being disrespectful, but if you look at their schedule as a whole, beyond Cleveland, who's always going to be tough because of the divisional aspects, you'd probably say the 2 games where the Ravens are going to be most heavily favored are home against the Saints and home against the Titans. And they're sandwiched around that trip to Rio. So I think that's as good as you were going to get. The only thing that might have been a little better, and I know it was initially and inaccurately reported that the Titans game was on Monday night. If it was, that would have given them 1 extra day. Look, this is a 9 or 10 hour flight going to Brazil. A lot longer for those of us who are going to have to make 2 stops on the way to get there, because there will not be a spot on it for us on the team jet. I'll guarantee you that, Cole. But
they don't let me within 100 yards of that. So
yeah, but there's, that was as good as you were going to get. And look, you're starting on the road. You're playing a Colts team that, I think they started off really well last year. Daniel Jones was kind of the talk of the league. He tears his Achilles in December. That was a December injury. So look, winning on the road is tough, and the Colts should be pretty good, but that's a very winnable game. So, those first 4 weeks, you'd have to feel pretty confident if the Ravens go 3-1 that they'll be in a really good spot to navigate the second part of their schedule.
Absolutely. So then that kind of takes us into week 5, which I will say, the Sunday nighter against Atlanta, that kind of surprised me, just in the sense that I didn't really think a NFC opponent in Atlanta would be a primetime game, but hey, we'll take it. Should be a very good game. Dwayne Ledford gets his former team, and then they go to Cleveland from there, which again, always a tough matchup with Cleveland, despite what their record ends up. But the added nuance here with their next 2 matchups is week 7 against Cincinnati and week 8 against Buffalo. 2 good teams, 2 teams that'll compete in the AFC. Also 2 teams coming off their bye week. So I think that is, again, one of those added pieces that you have to consider. So I would say this next 4-game stretch gets a little bit tougher when you think about it. You start on the prime time on the road in Atlanta. Then you go to Cleveland, where you've struggled at times, and it's the AFC North, where it just seems like everyone splits every year. And then Cincy off their bye, Buffalo off their bye. So how are you reading these next 4?
Yeah, and one other thing, Cole, about the beginning. I mean, you're looking at least 2 second-year quarterbacks in your first 4 weeks, and Jesse Minter is going to get ahead of the game planning because but they start the game planning early for those early season games. They'll be looking at those early, and you're going to get a chance to go after 2 young quarterbacks in Tyler Shook and Cam Ward. I think that Falcons is a very underrated, difficult game. That is a place Raven fans will be well represented. I like Jesse Minter facing Michael Penix or Tua. It's Kevin Stefanski now, so he knows plenty about going against Lamar Jackson. I think that's an interesting game. But depending what happens in the 4 weeks, that's also a game the Ravens should be favored in. Let's be serious. So the Bills one is interesting. And obviously that you never, John Harbaugh used to talk about this. Like, one of the first things he looks at is, okay, who do we got coming off their bye? That's always something head coach is paying more attention to. And, to get that 2 straight weeks, that's never great. You don't like that. And that's one of the kind of the challenges. But man, you look at the Bills schedule and it's like, so different from last year. The Bills open at Texans, home versus Lions, home versus Chargers, home versus Patriots, at Rams, at Raiders, and then they go into their bye before Baltimore. So that is those 6 games are really, Raiders obviously aren't supposed to be good, but those first 5 games are as tough as the start as you're going to get. So they'll probably be that'll be a game they'll have circled and they'll want to win. That's going to be kind of a spotlight game. I'm shocked it's at 1:00, but that'll be one of their early home games at their new stadium. But look, Cole, I thought for much of this offseason that was going to be a week 1 Sunday night game. So to get them on a 1:00, probably will be cold in Buffalo, but not December cold. So I don't know. I'm okay with that spot for the Bills beyond the obvious concern about the bye.
And this is, to me, where the games start to stack up. So you get Bengals off their bye, you get Buffalo off their bye, and then you do get a little bit of a relief. Going from in Buffalo against Buffalo to a short week against Jacksonville, who, Jacksonville, they did some good things last year. Are they going to, the Ravens will be favored in this game, assuming everyone's healthy, but still a tougher game, especially on a short week. But then you do get your mini bye, which is kind of nice. So they go from Thursday night football on November 5th to not playing until Monday night football on November 16th. And that's kind of the added bonus that you mentioned. And it comes at a really good time, because I think if you didn't have that mini bye, I think these games would start to kind of stack up as you're trying to get to your bye week. At this point, injuries are probably piling up. So you go with your mini bye from Jacksonville, obviously Jesse Minter at home against his former team in the Chargers. Then you're going into Carolina, again, another team that, similar to Jacksonville, surprised some teams or surprised some people last year. So kind of similar to Chicago, where they got into the playoffs. Not many people thought they would. So a team that's capable of having a winning record, and that you get the Ravens at home. And then a very tough matchup, in my opinion, I would say probably one of their 3 hardest matchups in this season is going into Houston. Yeah. It's not just the fact that it's in Houston. It's at the fact that it's coming after 12 weeks of continuous football. You do have the mini bye, but that really starts to stack up. So that to me is kind of the big takeaway here is they're getting one of their hardest games at the end of their biggest stretch of football.
Yeah, no question. I think Texans are going to be kind of a sexy Super Bowl pick for teams that don't want to go with one of the usual, for pundits that don't want to go with one of the usual suspects. That's usually one of the favorites. And you look at it from a broader scale, Cole. Bills playoff team last year, Jaguars playoff team last year, Chargers playoff team last year, Panthers playoff team last year, Texans playoff team last year. So that's, if I know it's always tough to evaluate based on last year, but that's 5 teams that made the playoffs last year. Bills and Texans and Chargers are probably going to be 3 of the top teams in the AFC. And we'll see about the Jaguars. They're viewed as a pretty good up-and-coming team. They did some nice things this offseason. But again, it is a tough stretch. They were going to be somewhere. I'm not losing sleep at night over facing Jaguars on a Thursday night at home. That's a game you have to win. I'm also not losing sleep over facing the Panthers on the road. Lamar Jackson threw his first touchdown pass in Carolina, right? But I don't think he's ever started a game there, which would be interesting. I would expect a sizable Ravens contingent there, too. So it is that's where the stretch and they'll be we'll know how good they are by the end of that stretch, Cole, right? We'll have a good feeling, because if they start really hot, you know what people are going to say. They had a weak September, early October schedule, and but we'll know right around mid-season there, a little after the second half of the season, how good this team is. I think, as you said, you could make a strong case that the 3 toughest games of the season are within those 5 weeks: Buffalo, Chargers, and at Houston. Like, you could make that case. You could make also a case for a Bengals game or Steelers, whatever. But I think most people will suggest those are 3 of your toughest games of the season, and they're playing them within 5 weeks.
Absolutely. And then, this gets us into our finale. You get into the bye week, which I think is coming it's going to feel so good when that bye comes. And I mean, you're through 12 weeks here. You probably feel pretty good going into this bye. If you can be at, I would say 9-3, I think you feel really good about where you're at. Obviously we'll kind of see how they come out, but Bengals off their bye, Bills off their bye on the road, Texans week 12 going into, like, those are tough games. Those are tough games where your opponents have some favorable matchups on you, just with kind of the setup. I think one of the biggest swings in terms of what the record is going to be those back-to-back primetime home games against Jacksonville and the Chargers. I feel like they could very easily drop to, I mean, the Bengals at home is a little different, but if they split the Bengals and Bills game, it's going to feel like they really need to take those 2 at home. Yeah. I'm putting myself in that mindset of where are we after the Buffalo game? If they happen to lose that one, it's going to feel like we need to win these next 2 before we have 2 on the road going into the bye. So that takes us into the bye week. Then we come out, and very interesting. They've kind of flirted in the last few years with this AFC North gauntlet. Last year I think it was Steelers, Bengals, Steelers, and then a week before that, those 3 games, I think they had the Browns. But they host the Bucks, then they go into Pittsburgh, back home against Cleveland, into Cincinnati, and back home against Steelers in a game that could very well once again be flexed into prime time. So, the Bucks game, I think that's a good opponent to have coming out of your bye week. I think that's a game that you're circling that as in the sense of like, you're coming out of your bye week. It's at home. You need to win that game before you go into the gauntlet. And
Florida team in the cold weather. It should be nice and cold in Baltimore right around Christmas.
Absolutely. And like December 14th, let's put ourselves in the minds of fans. It's going to feel like these next 4 games are going to probably decide the AFC North. So to kind of come out of that bye week, get a win is going to be extremely important. And then what do you kind of think about how they set up this divisional run? Like, this is a very interesting way. It kind of reminds me of college football where it's obviously a little bit different, but like they always obviously will play their out of conference games early, and then it's just conference to kind of finish it out.
We've seen the league. They like to do this. Obviously, it's always a week 18 divisional game that closes it. It is a little much for me. I think ideally you get 2 early, you get 2 midseason, you get 2 at the end of the season. That's sort of how I would prefer it to lay out. This all but ensures, no matter how good the Ravens are through the first 14 weeks of the season, this all but ensures that the division's still going to be up for grabs with 4 games to go, because everyone's, they're going to be playing so many division games. And even if you have a nice cushion, that cushion would disappear quickly when you're playing 4 straight divisional games if you stub your toe in a couple of those games. So, I like the fact that they're at home in week 18. Like I said, I think that's important, especially if it's a winner take all game like it was last year. But even if it's not, even if they've clinched a playoff berth, it's nice to be at home that final week, because you don't want to be traveling heading into the first playoff game on week 18. And I know Pittsburgh is a quick trip, but still, it's nice to be at home in that game and not have to worry about logistically all that, when the game's going to be. You're at home. Nothing else matters there. So it'll be interesting, Cole. I mean, the worst kept secret and the most obvious thing about the schedule was that they were going to play the Bengals at night after the last 4 Bengals Ravens game in Baltimore were in prime time, and Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow have done their fair share of complaining about it. So you had to know that was going to happen. I think it's kind of bullshit to have a short week that late in the season. That kind of stands out even beyond the 4 divisional games, and something I wouldn't like. I mean, you're on a short week in week 17, when everyone's beat up and all that, and is
in a game that has major implications.
Yeah, exactly. New Year's Eve in Cincinnati. There's been better places I spent New Year's Eve.
I can't think of a worse place. Skyline Chimney on New Year's Eve.
But beyond that's tough. I think what you're gonna have to, you have to win. You win those first 2 games. You win at Pittsburgh, and then you take care of business at home against the Browns. And you set yourself up where maybe you just need to win one of those final 2 games. I think you'll have to feel pretty good about yourself. But as I said earlier, this hasn't happened. They've never had the 4 divisional games to close the season. I wish the NFL didn't schedule this so heavily. You have the 2 in week 6 and 7, right? And then nothing, after late October, you don't play another division game for nearly 2 months. That's not ideal to me. I like it better when they're split up, but it is what it is. This division should be pretty competitive, and now we know that this division probably will still be up for grabs around Christmas time.
Yeah, it was funny when I first saw it. I was like, okay, sweet, no Christmas Day game, which has been nice. It feels like that just kept happening. But then you kind of scroll 2 weeks and you're like, oh, they got New Year's Eve, of course. Can't wait to explain that one.
Let's be honest with you, Cole, though. New Year's Eve is the most overrated night on the calendar.
I thought Easter was. So didn't you just say Easter was?
Easter? I don't think Easter's overrated. But You talk about it, and, like, when you get older, are you really staying up at
Oh
midnight
God, no.
and sipping bullshit champagne? I mean, come on. So I don't really it doesn't bother me. I'd rather have Christmas and Thanksgiving where I'm not going to a football game and working. So if I had to pick a night to work, it would be on New Year's Eve. So all those Bobby Trossett wannabes, amateur hour at the local bars around here, wreaking havoc and
I think Bobby Trossett is a Bobby Trossett wannabe.
yeah, he fits in with that group, trust me. So we get to avoid that and we can watch football and work. I wish it wasn't in Cincinnati, but you knew it was coming. It just was a matter of what date the night game was going to be.
Seriously. And I have to highlight too, because obviously you guys in the States always look at the Thanksgiving games. The big thing for me is that October 11th date is Canadian Thanksgiving. We always have a 1 p.m. game. I'm always stuck at my mother-in-law's, and it's just tough to kind of there's 13 kids running around. I'm trying to watch the game. So to get prime time that day was a godsend to me.
Do they have turkey on Canadian Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the big thing that we don't do that you guys do that I've noticed is like, and some families will, but like mac and cheese isn't a big thing. The green bean casserole, that was something that I hadn't really heard about until I started really getting into Ravens Twitter and learning what you guys go to. Very basic turkey, potatoes. We always force my mom to make either a ham or something because we get sick of turkey every single. But yeah, it's not. Thanksgiving in Canada is nothing compared to the holiday that it is in the States.
Nice
it's crazy
slate though, man. Nice football slate on Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
and Christmas. Like as much as I'm happy that we're not playing, I'm happy that I can sit back on Christmas Day and watch. They did a really good job with those schedules. So big credit to them there. Before we jump any further. I don't have the graphic to play it, so this is going to be a little bit amateur hour, but tonight's show is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. The ongoing promotion that we have is to play $5 and get $50 instantly in your lineups by using code HMA. Usually we do a live. Ironically enough, PrizePicks is not available in Canada, so I can't get onto the website. And Bobby is taking a nap, so we will circle back if Bobby jumps in. Take a look at how we did the other day.
They sure as heck aren't asking me to do promotional stuff for sponsors. That's
God no. Oh God no. Could never do that.
Hey, I was looking, Cole. And I think we got Anthony Edwards wrong. Wasn't it over 27? And you were the guy that pushed for that. I didn't like that.
Yeah, but we were right about Wemby going.
We were right about Wemby and McDaniels. We were right about because he had a good game. He had I think it was over 14, which I said he'd get by first quarter. He didn't do that, but he was comfortably over 14.
Well, I bought into your piece of like Wemby's going to come back for revenge after and that made perfect sense. And I thought Ant being the competitor that he is would match it. And it was weird.
The game just got away from him. If Ant,
he played a ton. He played over 40, but he didn't shoot. Yeah, it was surprising.
Well, they're in trouble now.
They are in trouble now, especially with an angry Wemby, and that's that Spurs OKC potential conference final will be something. Me and my big group text were just talking about like OKC is just the most boring team, but it's fun to have it led by a Canadian. I'll say that. We haven't really.
Oh God.
What?
They're so good though.
Oh, so good. Yeah, insane. Okay, so let's dive into a few things around the schedule. So if you had to pick out one area of the schedule that you think is the pain point, or one area that you think Jesse Minter's really going to have to manage, is going to give him some issues as a first-time head coach, where would you kind of start with here?
Well, I'd say two things, Cole. Logistically, how do they handle Brazil? They've played 2 international games. It's both in London. They haven't gone to South America before. And now they're going on week 3 of the season. What do they decide to do? It sounds like them and the Cowboys are pretty much on the same page in terms of getting there later in the week. But that means you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's. You're probably going to get there in time for like a Friday walkthrough. Then you have another, you have a late practice Friday, then you have a Saturday walkthrough, then you're playing Sunday, and then you're back on a plane for 10, 12-hour trip home or whatever it winds up being. So I think that's going to be a key thing there. How do they handle that? And not just that week, but on the back end and on the front end, how are they preparing for everything? I did a story when they went to London at just the massive effort and how many people are involved in shipping their stuff out and everything. So that's going to be an interesting for a first year head coach to have that in your third week. That is going to stand out. And then the other thing, Cole, it's late towards the bye week. That's a lot of straight weeks to play, and included in that is the Brazil trip. So right around that bye week, can they finish strong and avoid dropping a couple games? I mean, look, Houston is going to be a tough game regardless, but can they take care of business with and beat the Chargers at home? You just know how bad Jim Harbaugh is going to want to beat them, Joe Ortiz, and then can they go to Carolina and put them away? So those are sort of the 2 points of the schedule beyond the obvious, which was the AFC North finish, where that you look at and are going to be the real test for Jesse Minter.
I'll jump in here, but I will take a second to welcome Slappy into the chat. Slappy, how's it going?
Look at how happy he is.
I know. He came in real pumped. Have you been streaming for the last 13 hours?
Lay it on me. He wanted.
Oh, we already did. Wait till you go back through the episode.
I gave him 30 plus minutes to do it. I don't know what happened. I don't want to know, I don't think, but I'm back here. Thank you guys for taking care of business.
Always.
Yeah. Bobby, I honestly only made one comment about you, and it was about your behavior on New Year's Eve. So it was not really anything about your work ethic. So I think you'll be okay with me after this episode. I'm not going to point any fingers, but I'm not going to say there may have been a few other comments made.
I can't wait to see your outfit New Year's Eve, assuming that we're going to be in some form or fashion live that day. We'll see.
Oh, in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
So before I turn the host reins back over to Bobby, instant reactions, kind of give us your thoughts. What'd you think?
Yeah, the bye week and the mini bye prior to it, I'm sure you guys have already milked this thing. I mean, that's about as important as it gets, knowing how backloaded this thing is. I couldn't believe the first time in 31 years that it's back to back AFC North closing stretch. That's something right there. And obviously, those first 6 weeks kind of feel significant. And there's no 1-5 in play in making the postseason next year, I would imagine, because there's just not a whole lot of room. And I get it. We don't know who Cleveland's going to be and who their quarterback's going to be, but we know that they typically will play the Ravens tough, particularly with that defense and knowing that now Todd Monken knows this current version of the Ravens, which, yes, will look different than the years past, but maybe better than any head coach does around the league, not named John Harbaugh. So, and Jim, I'm sure, will be pretty familiar with them as well. So that's the first thing that sticks out to me. I was kind of surprised by 4 primetime games rather than north of that number. I know Sarah hit me with an over-under prediction earlier in the week at 4.5, and I was like, over. Wouldn't you have guys taken that too?
I probably would.
Yeah, I said, I saw there was a bunch of teams that had 6 or some teams have 7. And I didn't think they would be the top team, but I thought the over number I would have set it at was 5. Right. Yeah. And I would not have said under as your point.
Yeah. Well, that's why when the wrong leak, I guess, that had the Tennessee game as a Monday Night Football game, I thought, maybe coming off Brazil, they give them in the extra day and it gets them to 5. I thought, okay, that maybe there's some credibility there just given all the circumstances. But yeah, with the added days, right? Because you got, obviously, when they added Thursday Night Football, you're adding primetime every week, but now you got the Friday Night Football. When you get into the later portion of the year, you get Saturday night games, which the Ravens obviously had against the Packers last year. I was just surprised, that they didn't get another one at some point. I guess their way of adding that primetime game was the 8:15 on in week 17, where you add that late short week.
Yeah.
That's the part that, that's a real tough one. for me. I think Jeff kind of nicely captured that. And what I wanted to hit on, just to kind of close the thought, I asked Jeff, Bobby, just kind of what his biggest piece would be for where Jesse Minter is going to, really have to prepare. And Jeff spoke to the international game. And I think the piece I would speak to is actually that it's going to be the resilience that this team may need to show during that stretch where they get Cincinnati off their bye, Buffalo off their bye, because you go from those two games, which I think are really tough games, getting teams off their bye week, into a home and home in prime time against the Jaguars and the Chargers. And so that week 7 to week 10, this team might have to, miss an easier than normal schedule, or it's just, at least compared to recent years, they may really need to show some resilience early in this year to go. If you drop that Bengals game and then you're going into Buffalo, they're going to have to show some early resilience. So how does Jesse Minter manage that? How does he handle that with his team? I think that's something to really keep your eye on, just because at that point in the season, you're still 5 weeks away from your bye week, and the opponents stack up: Bills, Jags, Chargers, Panthers, Texans. I think two of those are probably two of the weaker playoff teams from the last cycle, but still playoff teams nonetheless.
Jeff, were you surprised by Buffalo, Baltimore not necessarily commanding this?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you guys discussed that. I mean, that's somewhat surprising.
Yeah. By the way, guys, just to finish that thought, 8 teams have 6 or 7 primetime games. 8. And of course, one of them is the Cowboys, because God forbid we don't see them on the TV every week in prime time. Right. Bobby, I would have said the biggest guarantee was the Bengals game being at night after all the chatter coming from Cincinnati all year. The second one would have been Buffalo and Ravens in prime time, and I would have been wrong. The third one was probably finishing up with the Steelers, and I would have been right 2 out of 3. But yeah, that game is that's as good of one of the highlight regular season matchups. Those teams always produce memorable games. You have 2 MVP quarterbacks. You got the whole storylines with sort of new coaches coming in to teams that have been knocking on the door. So yeah, that one really surprised me. And to a lesser extent, Houston, really. Like, I thought that if I was to mark the games most likely for prime time, I would have probably had Buffalo and Houston and maybe one of the Pittsburgh games on the list, just because, regardless, it's always interesting to find out, does uncertainty of Aaron Rodgers prevent them from putting Pittsburgh heavy in prime time? I haven't even seen I haven't seen how many primetime games they have, but those games are always so good, regardless of who the quarterback is, that it usually doesn't matter. But I would have thought that out of those 3 games, or 4 really, because 2 of them are against Pittsburgh, 2 Pittsburghs, 1 Kansas, 1 Buffalo, and the other Houston. I would have thought at least 2 of those would have been in prime time, and none of them are.
Well, the Steelers have 4 prime times. Okay. They have week 4. They have Thursday night football at Cleveland. I don't know if you count the international games.
And Cleveland always wins that game, don't they?
I know.
Like that. They have a history of beating the Steelers at home.
And they have October 25th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern against New Orleans. So I don't know if they count that as a prime time. Probably not, because it's not prime time. But then they have November 15th.
That's the game in France, Cole, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Friday, November 27th, I believe that's the Black Friday game. They play at 3 p.m. So again, do you consider that prime time? I guess it depends on how you define prime time. Because they're not playing at night, but they are getting some of those extra matchups.
Let's face it, guys, real quick. We can do all this, but you can flex. And when your schedule down the stretch includes 1 against the Texans, 1 against the Buccaneers, 2 against the Steelers, and 1 against the Bengals, there's probably, if those games are as significant as we think they probably will be, 1 or 2 of those will probably be flexed in prime time, because there's always dog matchups in December that they're looking to get out of. And as I said, Ravens Steelers never disappoint. And that final Ravens game is TBA, by the way, versus the Steelers. But at least it's not the final 2 road games being TBA. You know how hard that was to plan last year? When the hell to travel? Making 35 different plans to go to Green Bay, which is impossible to get to in the first place.
Right.
I think what got me, I just took a look at week 8 and week 12 just to see who did get prime time. So when Baltimore is playing Buffalo at night, they got Philly at Washington, which again, the NFL just kills us with the NFC East. Like it's always it drives me nuts.
East Coast bias.
Well, I mean, historical franchises in the division, so I get it. Obviously, big markets, but Jesus, do they ever just beat it to death? And then that's the Thanksgiving weekend, I guess. So Baltimore is at Houston, and they have New England at the Chargers at 8 p.m. So I guess they're looking at it, I assume, as a playoff rematch. But I feel like Baltimore-Houston, way better game than Patriots at Chargers. But that's maybe I'm biased. Who knows?
Let's get some super chats in here. Colin Donahue wrote, "No more Hartober," meaning Harbtober, and blow it December, eh? Colin, thank you. Cole Zayad's here.
How many Brady games we get? Need to hear him scream. What's a Brady game?
Fox game, right?
Oh,
I got this. Hold on a second, guys. I've been carrying your ass all day. I might as well keep doing it.
What's he gonna go do?
What's he doing?
Is he taking his belt off?
All right, fellas. So we have Cleveland. That first Cleveland game's on Fox. I doubt they're going to send their top announcer crew to see Ravens Cleveland. The Panthers game's on Fox. Maybe we'll get a surprise and get old Tom at Bank of America Stadium. Is that what they call that place they play in?
Did you write this down with a pen and paper?
Yeah, you want to see it? Tampa Bay Fox game. Right here, boys. Can you read that?
Yeah, there it is.
Some of us got to do some shit around here. I don't stay on streams all day, let me tell you.
This guy. And Pete Gilbert has provided this graphic as well, which backs up Jeff's handwritten notes there.
Who did this?
This is Pete Gilbert's work.
Oh, I love Pete. He's a great dude.
Yep. Great.
I thought Bobby did it for a second. I was a little surprised. So, now that I know it was plagiarized.
WB. I'm doing a Cole Jackson special here. Copy and paste.
Yeah, that's. I probably would have misformatted it. My camera would have froze.
Appreciate you, Pete. Let's continue on with the super chats. Jeff, this one's for you from Zayad.
Zayad, more interested to see how Jesse takes losses than wins. Yeah, man, that's a good point. I think that's all part of it. And one of the unknowns about Jesse is how he deals with the ups and downs of the season when he's the guy in front of the microphone. Defensive coordinators don't go to the podium 30 minutes after a loss and answer questions for why they made calls. They don't talk till midweek usually when they've cooled off and already turned to the next game. And that may not matter to fans what they say to the media, but that's the voice projected after wins and losses. So that very much sets the tone in the building for how they're handling stuff. So that's all part of it. I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to be learning on the fly. He's very even keel. He's got a very even keel personality. But he also has like what they call some red ass in him, right? They call it red ass, where he can get fired up a little bit and get
that's what we call Jeff off stream.
Oh yeah, I'm high up on that quotient. But we'll see. But I mean, yeah, that's part of dealing with the media 4 or 5 times a week, and that's got to be some of the homework the Ravens did on him, because that's an important thing. I mean, John Harbaugh was the face and voice of the organization dealing with the media. Once the season starts, Eric DeCosta is not out there talking to the media. Steve Bisciotti is not out there talking to the media. It's Jesse Minter who's going to be out there 4 or 5 times a week.
Ryan Bratton writes, Jeff, could you imagine that Rams schedule? The first four or five are primetime games. I mean, the kids probably won't have school on Mondays, so it works out that way.
Oh my God, Bobby, could you imagine Jeff 4 out of 5 primetime games and streaming twice a week? Oh my God.
Imagine Jeff going to Australia to come back to it like some sort of September blizzard.
Yeah, seriously.
No, it's not a blizzard. It's just a very
light
rain.
dusting that knocks out school for 9 days.
Ryan, thank you. Dinero Tranquilo is here, Cole.
Rio and Houston, lots of football, women, and dollar bills with the boys. What a time to be alive. Fuck yeah.
Well, how about this? It's not Houston, but we did get a great tweet tonight. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Why don't we go ahead and screen share this? Let's get rid of this. Here is Bernsey at T_Bernsey.
Yeah, that's Tyler. Tyler's a beauty.
Okay, Tyler. How about it? Come on down to Cincinnati on New Year's Eve. Is that where he is?
I've already told people this. Jeff won't hang out with me at NFL games. He just won't do it.
I don't hang out with anybody. I'm in the press box working. Isn't that my job?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm working too. I'm just working in the parking lot. I'm expanding our brand.
I'm sure my bosses would love to hear. Hey, I'm going out to tailgate for a while with Cole Jackson. That'll be well received.
Hey, expanding brand awareness, key thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a key thing to do. Don't you think, Jeff?
If you say you're going tailgating with Cole Jackson, it's going to be followed with who?
Jeff is all about brand awareness. I do know that about him for sure.
Yeah, we need to film more videos. Yeah.
Jeff from Steve. Here you have it.
Steve Schapp. How will the NFL hold the refs more accountable in these games? Well, I mean, first of all, I think when you talk about the refs, the good news is they got that deal, because God, would that have been a headache? And we all remember the first time with the replacement refs. But yes, officiating is always going to be an issue. I mean, I've gotten into the NBA playoffs this year more than ever, and every game it's a topic of conversation. Baseball now with the ABS system and all that. So it's an every sport thing. Yes, NFL officials need to get better. You wish there weren't so many games. I'm looking forward to every year one of the ref crews comes to Ravens training camp, and we meet with the head ref. He does something for media. They play a video, and he talks about what are the focuses. Like, what are they, one year it was the horse collar tackle. And another year they talked a lot about what's going to constitute taunting. I'm waiting to see what are going to be the issues this year that they're really focusing on and trying to change.
Opener with Ronnie Stanley and the what was it called?
Illegal formation. Yeah, and I don't think he got called for it the rest of the year. But yeah, so that's always interesting. I think, to me, and we could have a whole show on officiating. Maybe we should just start doing this 4 days a week, for God's sake. But one of the interesting things to me is this whole eye in the sky. I just don't think they're radioing down. If you can radio down and correct the spot, and there seems to be certain situations where they are getting input in their ear about certain things when they pick up a flag. But what constitutes when they're able to take the eye in the sky's advice and make a change or whatever? And that's kind of one of the interesting things to me. I think the eye in the sky needs to be more active in fixing egregious mistakes, because you can do it quickly, just like the baseball system now. I think what everyone likes about that is it's so quick, and the umpire, the calls,
right? Chipping a ball. You don't need to waste all this time measuring. You don't need to wait. Like, just straight up, they can do a challenge, give them a certain amount. They can point at the ref, go to the thing, yes or no, move on. I actually was shocked at how I thought the baseball one, it's a great comparison, because I expected it to be disruptive, and it's not. It's fast. It's awesome. Efficient. They have a good graphic to show fans who are watching on TV. I think it's been the changes baseball has made to make the game more enjoyable, with that and the pitch clock in the last few seasons. It's just shown what, like, the NFL is missing some opportunities here.
100%, Cole. I agree. Yeah. And you know what, like, it's strategic too. Like, it's interesting when catchers call for challenges. Like, it seems like managers get ticked off at hitters or catchers when they blow a challenge early in the game, and you have to kind of think of it from a team perspective. Well, you're pissed off. You feel like you just got called down to strike, but is it the right time? I really like the addition it's made.
Cole, nerd with the sideburns, celebrating 2 months of channel membership.
What a beauty. Tell these teams don't run. Minter Belt is coming. And that, to me, is the biggest change that I'm expecting with this Ravens team compared to the previous seasons. And one of my biggest questions is, how will Jesse Minter's focus on defense specifically, with the Ravens' tendency to be in the lead in these games, because that's what it's been, right? It's been blown leads. How does Jesse Minter's defenses close out games? So hopefully it's a Minter Belt, and hopefully it's Mike Green racking up lots of sacks to make my draft analysis look smart and not dumb.
Yeah, there's some guys in this defense that there's a couple of those matchups in the first half of the season that these guys should really remember and should resonate. I mean, some of that is always overblown. The old redemption storyline is overused by us in the media, but I mean, I was looking up that Texans game. Man, that was an embarrassment. Now, that was also Cooper Rush playing, which was part of the issues. But dancing in the end zone, doing Ray Lewis dances, and that's a team the Ravens have beat up on, really, in big spots in the playoffs on Christmas Day. And so the Texans are one of those teams. Obviously, we all know what the Bills. What was it, 22 fourth quarter points and almost 500 yards of offense. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of, I guess, the gauges early in the first half of the season where we'll know how quickly Jesse Minter has made an impact on that defense. There's a lot of early heck, Cowboys were one of the best offensive DVOA teams in the league last year. That's a good early test. So there will be opportunities to see how much better they are defensively early.
And Jesse Minter's secondary, where he specializes going against that receiving duo that they have in Dallas, will be great. And I mean, quite a few good receivers to start with. You know, Indy kept their guys around, except they did trade Pittman. But then you got Olave. So, I mean, there's some tough ones. You got Drake London in week 5. There's going to be some tough wide receiver ones coming through Baltimore.
Brian says, Bobby, you going to go to any Bucs games? I went to one last year. It was the Falcons-Bucs game where Kirk Cousins came back and broke the hearts of everybody in Tampa. And they were just, Dwayne Ledford's run game coordination was going through the roof. And so I like to get to one per game. I'm in St. Pete, so it's just north, Brian. Appreciate you. Colin Donahue.
Are you going to an Oriole game this weekend? Aren't they in St. Pete coming up here?
They're coming up here soon. I already went to one.
Really?
Actually, I went to a Yankees-Rays game. Yeah, it's coming up here soon before the end of the month.
Is it just the lighting? You always look like you have a perennial sunburn on your face. Is it just the lighting we're looking at, or are you just hanging out outside all day?
On the video saying, why is Bobby so red?
Well, I did my first fishing charter experience this past weekend.
Oh, is that what it is?
My nose is Rudolph for sure.
Did you catch anything?
Oh yeah, no, I had a mini shark on my line, and we brought
Really?
that sucker. Brought that sucker on the boat.
Wow. Why are you burying the lead? That would have actually been more interesting than anything else you've said tonight. You should have brought that up earlier.
Listen, I didn't think you wanted to know about my personal life.
He caught a shark?
I just want to hear about fishing. Fishing's great.
That thing came up onto the boat like a bat out of hell.
Really?
I mean, he was pissed. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People straight up thought you got a spray tan. I was dying. I thought it was funny.
Out of the crew, this is Colin Donahue. Out of the crew, who's going to Brazil? Jeff, I'm assuming the bye week will be crucial for us. Has this been Cincy's first prime-time game against us in Cincy? I'm trying to think if I've ever covered a game at night in Cincy. That playoff game with the Tyler Huntley fumble was either late afternoon or evening, right?
6-yard QB sneak out of boy Tyler.
Out of the look, I haven't made my flight. I looked into it today. I am hoping to go to Brazil. I guess I could say I'm tentatively planning on going to Brazil, Colin. But man, the logistics to try to get to Brazil, like when in my work thing, like you type in where you want to go and stuff. I couldn't find a connection with under 3 stops. So I gotta go do my homework on what's the easiest way to get.
You gotta get to Bogota. So Montreal. I just looked this up for me. So Montreal flies to Bogota, and then you grab the flight to Rio. So there's only one connection if you go from Montreal. So if you can find somewhere,
but is there any directs from Baltimore to Montreal?
No, definitely not.
So then we're talking
BWI. Yeah, probably from BWI. IAD flies up here.
I probably will wind up flying out of DC, which I don't like doing for obvious reasons, but there's more available flights, obviously, to go international. But man, 18, 19 hours in a plane. Oh, I don't mind flying, but once we get to 5-6 hour mark, my meter starts running hot and I get salty and I'm not a whole lot of fun to be around. I know that surprises you.
I'm shocked. Yeah.
There we go.
That's absolutely, I'm floored right now.
Colin, to answer your question, I'm definitely in some talks. Hoping
in
to go.
Some talks. Look at this guy. This is
who are you talking to? SeatGeek?
Yeah. Again, I'm just trying to speak the Copacabana Collective into existence.
I got a text from one of my buddies earlier who's a big Cowboys fan. He said, "Are we going to Brazil?" And so I'm going to take a screenshot. I'm going to send it to my wife, and she'll say no, and we'll battle it out. But
is it that nicotine company pouches that sent you to Brazil?
Lucy, that would be Lucy.
Lucy, there it is. Yeah.
Are we still with them, or what happened to Lucy?
We are at the moment. We are powered by PrizePicks
and
SeatGeek at the moment,
and damn proud of it.
No question. Cole, Oscar,
have you seen T-Law getting a haircut? It looks weird. Jeff and I talked about this before we recorded. I think I'm getting old, grays in the beard. I can't stand these schedule release videos. I really hate to harp on the Ravens media team because I think overall they do a phenomenal job. But like the Zay Flowers video was just bizarre. I don't know what exactly went into the whole Wedding Crashers thing that showed like what a waste of an opportunity if you're going to do something. But obviously for those that didn't see, the Jaguars release was Lawrence getting a haircut. It was one of the stupidest things I've ever sseen. I don't know if that's just me.
Whoever thought Cole would have the "get off my lawn" speech of the night?
I just make it funny. Like I saw the Chargers are getting praised because they did a Halo theme. Like what?
Yeah, I will not. I watched the Ravens one. I watched Zay Flowers, and I will say this: I'd rather see minimal effort. These ones that just go overboard and try too hard and wind up being stupid anyway. I have a harder time with. I like the fact that there was good that came from that Zay Flowers. A whole wedding got free Ravens tickets, and a married couple on their wedding day got the surprise and shock of their life. Like I respect treating fans that way, and so I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But I won't watch any of these other ones, and I just it's tired. Like I think we all take ourselves a little too seriously on some of these schedule releases. Like everyone's waiting to hear from you. Just roll out the damn schedule. Let's go.
Hey, Slatty hits us with a couple super chats here. $1.99. Hey, Slatty. So thank you. And Diesel wants to know record predictions after the schedule release. Sarah, at my own will, required a prediction about an hour ago. I said 11-6. We went game by game. But I'm going 11-6. I think that's got a pretty darn good chance of winning the division this year.
That's what I put. We had to do this too, Bobby, and for the story that we had to have ready when the schedule came out, and I put 11-6 too. I think their schedule sets up well to have them in position to go into late December and win the division and get a good seed in the AFC playoffs, and that's really all you can ask for.
I usually do like kind of the middle, 11, 10, 11, 12, but I really think things align well for the Ravens this year. So I actually had them at 13-4.
Whoa.
Yeah. And like, I'll kind of give you some
team.
I try not to be too much of a hype guy. There's a couple of reasons. One, I think Lamar Jackson and a new offense just gives the Ravens a major benefit. It's going to be something that, you have this bright mind that, is getting hailed from everywhere he's gone, and Declan Doyle. I think that's going to be very conducive to good offensive football. I think the Ravens did make upgrades to their offensive line, despite the concerns around the center position. I still think they're going to have a major upgrade in their pass protection, going from that guard duo to Simpson and Vango, or Jones and Vanga, or however it lands. I think is a huge upgrade to make that Declan Doyle offense run. And I think Jesse Minter is going to call a closing defense. So I think that paired with the way the schedule lines up, there's definitely some tough patches. But I really think they can go 13-4. I think this is a year that they really do contend for the 1 seed. Whether or not they got that choker identity out of their DNA with a new coaching regime, we'll see. But I think they get into a very good spot going into the postseason and really set themselves up for a run.
I like to play it safe with mine. Obviously that's shooting high.
Yeah.
Which you're
I'm
aware
ready
of.
to be brokenhearted over here.
It's sometimes it's hard to predict the unpredictable. Who had 8 and 9 last year? Now we're all sitting here assuming health, assuming Jesse Minter's successful transition, assuming, well, maybe we're not assuming this. Maybe this is factoring in. It certainly did for mine. Namdi Madubuike. There's so many different factors that try to go in. So I always try to play it safe with mine. And how about this? Sherry has come in here for the first time ever inside the collective. We have 10 memberships being gifted courtesy of Sherry's generosity, which means 10 subscribers within our audience have just become members.
That's and I can see it's some of the.
I mean, do you know Sherry? Is Sherry a loyal listener for you guys too?
Yeah, Sherry does this quite often.
Oh, shout out Sherry!
Awesome.
I can see too because I can see everyone commenting a lot. It's a lot of our regular listeners that got a membership, so that's dope. We love to see that.
Why weren't they members in the first place?
Yeah, Mike.
We can't speak for them now, can we? What's cool too is if you remember the pricing points on some of the memberships that we went through, and they did it for us on the back end, our media team. That's a nice, generous gift there from
That's
Sherry.
Awesome. Yeah, that's well.
And you know what we need to do? We need to change the stickers because we still have Max Crosby as a sticker that
really?
members can use.
Yeah.
That aged like milk.
We'll get on that. We'll definitely get in that. And when you do become a member and you stay a member like David has, you get the opportunity to do monthly super chats, which he's done here, Jeff. And this one's for you.
Cool Kingdom, member for 2 months. Great job, guys. Really appreciate Jeff's insights. That means a lot. Thank you, Cole. And we appreciate you being a member.
That's for both of us.
That's David Cool.
I'd like to know how these super sticker money's getting divvied out because I know 2 people have been on for an hour and 1 person flew in.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, still going out 33.33%.
You know what else is the good part about these 1 o'clock games, guys? It allows you to get in your routine. I know fans like the prime time, but prime time throws you out of your routine when you're not getting home till 4 or 5 in the morning, and that changes the following week. So that's kind of an underrated part of this schedule. They have 11 1 p.m. games, and week 18 is another TBA. So it could be 12 1 p.m. games, which I guarantee you that's something, Jesse Minter wants home primetime games because Ravens have a big advantage in those because they're, historically they play very well, the home crowd. But short of that, I think everybody in the organization will love these 1 p.m. games because it allows, they don't filter into the next week. When you leave the stadium, even if you're on the road, you get home not too late, or you're home, you get home at a good hour and you can start right away on Monday and you don't have to worry about the travel coming back. So I think that'll be well received. That's sort of an underrated part of the schedule.
The 1 p.m. games just kill me with the kids. Like it's tough because it basically writes Sunday off. I still haven't been able to convince my wife that I'm working when I'm watching the game. She's not buying it yet.
Hey, if Lucy comes back,
we need Lucy's my ticket.
He's going to have to answer for some of these income streams that are starting to come in here in the next year or so.
Yeah,
hey, along those lines, because it does mean a lot to us if you subscribe, we are 121 subscriptions away from 8,000. So we have 684 concurrents at the moment. If you find yourself unsubscribed and you didn't know it, we would love for you to change that so we can come up and hit another milestone here in the coming weeks. 8,000 subscriptions in reach. We want to say thanks to PrizePicks, thanks to SeatGeek, thanks to these 2 gentlemen for holding down the first half of the show. And we will be back on Tuesday for more. And we're going to have a lot of OTAs content, Jeff.
Yeah,
to get
guys,
you'll be out there.
Tuesday's the first OTA.
What time is it, Jeff? Is it morning?
We
Not
got
to
an
put you on the
email. We
spot.
got an email about
Okay.
it. I think the availability is early afternoon and the practice starts late morning. Let me see.
Okay.
I'll get this for you.
I'm
Um,
interested to see how the practice schedule is. It's gonna be
I'm a little off, Cole. Practice starts at 12:30 and is scheduled to run till 2:30. And then we'll start hearing from some players right around 2:30. Usually it'll be the head coach and two players. And I think there's a good chance we'll hear from Lamar Jackson this coming week if he's out there Tuesday. I think everyone is looking forward to hearing about him and hearing his thoughts about the new coaches and how the offseason program's has been going. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of contract questions that he will not answer. But you got to try, fellas. You got to try. But yeah, I think this is
does it start when does it switch to mandatory?
mandatory. So here's how it works, Cole. Next 3 weeks starting. No, I'm not being condescending. If I am, they have 3 OTAs in each of the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
So one is available to the media each week. So the dates that are available to the media, where we'll be able to watch, and we can watch the whole practice too, will be May 19th, May 27th, and June 2nd. So those 3 will all be open. And then following that is on June 9th and 10th is they're not doing a 3-day mandatory minicamp. It's a 2-day mandatory minicamp this year. So it's going to be both those days. Those are the only mandatory practices, June 9th and 10th. And
so Memorial has a little bit of content for early next week.
Yeah, this is the good stuff, guys. This is when who's taking the first reps at center. Even though we're not allowed to write that, we can ask Jesse Minter about it and see if he plays ball with us. Is there any chance Nnamdi Madubuike is anywhere near the field? I wouldn't think he'd be practicing given neck surgery not too long ago. Who are the veterans that show and don't show? I mean, normally I wouldn't think this is that big of a deal. I mean, this is very much a culture where they don't beg veterans to come here. There's way more focus on getting young players reps at this time of year. And, certain guys, they just really haven't cared that they're not here. And I mean, back in the day, you weren't seeing Ray Lewis and Ed Reed at all the OTAs and Terrell Suggs. It's just, the Ravens have never been a perfect attendance voluntary team. That's just not the culture here. But this is different. After 18 years, they have a new head coach and people are learning new systems and schemes. So attendance is going to be a bigger issue this year than ever before, given the presence of so many new coaches.
And on our way out here, Mike has been good enough to
that's awesome.
Donate a collective membership. So Sherry really started a run there, and maybe that'll continue in the weeks ahead. We appreciate you guys for hanging out tonight. Jeff just laid out what's coming up ahead, and we'll be there for it all. So appreciate you guys. Thanks to PrizePicks. Thanks to SeatGeek. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us tonight as we officially instantly reacted to the 2026 Ravens regular season schedule. We will catch you on Tuesday of next week and have a ton of OTAs content to get to. We look forward to it.